Question 1. The coffee industry is a typical example of monopolistic competition. The monopolistic competition is a market structure where variant firms produce and offer differentiated products and or services, which are close but not perfect substitute with each other. The firms highly compete with each other on various factors other than price. The answer to question 1 is D. There is a high level of competition in the industry with low barriers to entry and with each coffee business selling coffee that differs in quality. According to the definition, coffee had a very large number of sellers, including global coffee chain and local coffee house as a result of high level of competition in the industry. And due to monopolistic competitive markets, the coffee business had low barriers to entry and exit, as it is easy for independent coffee shops to start up and close easily, with new operators minimizing establishment costs by leasing equipment, furniture, and fitting. Even though the coffee business sells a similar product, but the coffee is not the same. A difference is created by the quality of coffee, customer service, or hospitality and price. Because the product is not exactly the same, each seller has some ability to set price for its own products. For this reason, D is the correct answer. Statement A is incorrect because each firm produces a product that is at least slightly different from those of other firms. For example, the quality of coffee from local coffee shop may be different from other coffee shops. Statement B is also incorrect due to the growing number of small cafes and coffee shops have resulted in a high level of competition, low barriers to entry, which firms can enter or access the business without restriction and low industry concentration. Like B, statement C is also incorrect due to the same reason, and it is not high barrier to entry because it is relatively easier to open up a small cafe.
Question 2 asks, which graph would best represent the individual coffee supplier's situation in the short run after Starbucks has closed its stores? Graph C is the correct answer. This is because it is the only graph that correctly reflects the effect on independent coffee suppliers as a result of Starbucks' exit from the coffee market in the short term. The graph is the only graph that correctly expresses the effect on the demand and marginal revenue curve, which shifts to the right from D1 to D2 and M1 to M2, as well as the increase in price and quantity as a result of the shift in demand and marginal revenue. Graph C is more correct than Graph B, however, because price is above average total cost, which reflects positive profit in the short run, encouraging the entry of new firms as a result. Graph B is incorrect. This is because it incorrectly expresses the shift in the demand and marginal revenue curve. As a result, this causes price to shift from P1 to P2, causing a decrease in price and an increase in quantity from Q1 to Q2. This graph does not reflect what would happen to the market for independent coffee suppliers in the case that Starbucks were to leave the coffee market. Here, D2 is below the average total cost curve, which discourages entrance of new firms. As a monopolistically competitive industry, this is unlikely to happen in the short run. Graph A is also incorrect, but like B, it reflects a decrease in demand and a decrease in marginal revenue, expressed by the shift of the demand curve and the marginal revenue curve to the left, from D1 to D2 and MR1 to MR2. Here, D2 is also below the average total cost curve, which discourages entrance of new firms. However, it shows a more realistic shift in price and quantity than Graph B. This graph does not correctly show the short-term effects of a monopolistically competitive firm in the short run. Graph D is incorrect. However, it is more correct than Graph A and B as it shows the correct shift in the marginal revenue and demand curve, shifting to the right. This reflects an increase in demand and marginal revenue. However, the graph incorrectly shows the change in price and quantity that would result in the shift of the demand and marginal revenue curve. The graph shows a shift from Q1 to Q2, which can likely happen in the long run, but a substantial increase in quantity would be highly unlikely in the short run, as a change in Q as such would require a substantial decrease in price of input resources, which is unlikely to occur as a result of Starbucks leaving the Australian coffee market. The graph also does not show a change in price, as it remains at P1 and instead an increase in quantity only.
Question 3 asks us to best describe which degree of price discrimination value-added offerings like customer loyalty cards or specials would be in. Before we can answer that question, we must first understand what price discrimination is and the three varying degrees. So what is price discrimination? Price discrimination can be generally defined as the practice of selling the same good to different customers for different prices, even though the costing of producing for the two customers is the same. However, price discrimination is not possible when a good is sold in a competitive market. No firm is willing to charge a lower price to any customer because the firm can sell all at once at the market price. And if any firm tries to charge a higher price to a customer, that customer would buy from another firm. Thus, for a firm to price discriminate, it must have some market power. Therefore, by understanding what price discrimination is, we can now delve more into this topic by differentiating the three varying degrees of price discrimination, namely the first degree, second degree, and third degree. Second degree price discrimination refers to the price of a good or service varying according to the quantity demanded. An example of this would be a discount given to customers who buy a good in bulk quantities. Third degree price discrimination refers to the price varying based on different consumer groups. Some examples of third degree price discrimination include price variation based on age, gender, location, and economic status. Knowing the three degrees of price discrimination, the answer would most likely be C, the third degree. This is because we can associate value-added offerings like customer loyalty cards and coffee and meal specials being price changes based on different consumer groups, and not price variance based on quantity or charging the maximum price. Furthermore, the loyalty card is a specified discount given to consumers that are generally frequently paying customers, which display price variance based on a particular consumer group. Coffee and meal specials could also be targeted to consumer groups, where there's a price discount or deal for specific age groups, like a discounted meal for kids.
Question 4 asks us to discuss what other types of price discrimination could coffee establishments use to compete with larger chains. For example, local operators may offer discounts to customers who are environmentally aware or are willing to use keep cups or reusable coffee cups. Individual coffee suppliers may try and target customers who are environmentally aware and hence offer discounts to customers who use or bring along reusable coffee cups. With the growth of environmental awareness in the global economy, specifically in developed countries, the public is becoming more aware of the damaging effects of waste on Earth. By taking this social and ethical approach, individual coffee suppliers can aim at differentiating themselves and staying competitive in the coffee industry. This is an example of third-degree discrimination, as customers who are willing to purchase and bring along reusable cups are offered discounts and excludes those who don't.
Another example of price discrimination that can be used by local coffee shops to encourage more consumer spending and to be able to compete with the larger chains would be offering student or senior discounts. This is an example of third-degree price discrimination by targeting the specific age groups, particularly students and senior citizens, because they have less of a disposable income and therefore are less likely to buy coffee. Thus, employing this type of discount would encourage these age groups to buy more coffee.
Another type of price discrimination is lower price during hours with low foot traffic. A common real example would be the use of happy hours. Happy hours aim to attract customers during unusual hours like midday or in the evening and encourage customer spending. This is another example of third-degree price discrimination targeting consumer group during specific hours.